So can you guess what our next AU is going to be?
Based on the pictures that are present?
Yeah. Well, you probably already know.
Oh, yes. Underfell.
Underfell.
We're
Everyone
gonna
loves
fall into
Underfell.
Fell.
Fall into Fell. So Underfell was created by the creator called Vic the Underfella. Underfell at some point was declared to be community shared, so there is some canon that we can pull from what I think is from Vic. But
Can I guess what the story is before we go on? Because I think I remember
sure.
reading about this at some point. So I think I remember something about the idea that Underfell is based, or kind of based, on the idea that they've been underground for a heckin' long time, like too long. And the flow of items and ideas and all that jazz from the surface down to the underground has kind of either slowed or stopped, and therefore it's really, really hard for them to get resources, so they're kind of like on edge all the time. And they're surviving based off of like Flowey's logic of surviving. And Papyrus looks
Maybe
like Skeletor to me. I don't know. That just
Papyrus. Well, I think everyone always interpreted Papyrus's voice to be Skeletor from the beginning.
yeah. Well, just his looks. He looks like he would be from He-Man.
Yeah, he does. He does. Your interpretation, I think, leans more towards horror tale, and that's like a whole other thing we'll get
Oh,
into
you
later.
know what? That might be what I was. Okay. Yep, that
Not
makes more sense.
exactly what you described, but I think that leans more into horror tale than Underfell. I think
You know what? No, you're right. I forgot that the two were different.
now, if you're looking at the original concept art for Underfell, like the very first, it's focused around Toriel. And it's almost like Vic almost went a horror, like a horror tale interpretation before horror, like, obviously they weren't aware of each other when they were making these AUs. Um, but it's almost like Vic almost went with like more of a what horror tale became, because we see like what looks like Toriel making a meat pie, I think is what it is.
Yeah, I assume that isn't strawberry or raspberry or any other kind of red colored fruit.
Yeah, and it would be very easy to mistake Underfell Toriel for Horror Toriel, because they're very similar. They're almost not even different characters. They're the difference is that the only difference is that one was already that way and the other one was became that way over time. Um,
Gotcha.
but yeah, it's like Toriel was already insane, but the thing is like with Underfell is that it's just a different aesthetic, but for the most part it's the same story as Undertale, except that Flowey is the only good one.
Oh, yes, it's got
So
like Frisk with Flowey in a little pot and just kind of walking around and being like, this wasn't.
yeah, yeah, Flowey and Frisk actually hang out together, and Flowey's actually trying to help Frisk get through the underground. Because Flowey is actually terrified of all the other monsters.
Aw.
So the first publication for Underfell came October 4th, 2015. Um, it was really focused more around Toriel and kind of just this idea of creating this creepy art. That's pretty much all it really started, until like people were so interested in it, they're like, "Oh, will you do more of the characters?" And Vic was basically like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do more of the characters." And then, then we get the second artwork where like they kind of did more of the main cast, what they would look like. And then as it grew in popularity, they started playing with the design in the next one where they started getting more refined details, and we're getting closer to the way the community interprets the characters.
Yes, I'm looking at the second picture and I'm noticing the very different aesthetic. Not so much in like clothing and whatever, but just the way that Underfell Sans looks emotionally
Mhm.
versus
Yeah,
the
he
third
definitely
picture. He does not look like West Side Story evil.
right.
Which is
He
how I
definitely
kind of imagine him with the whole like snapping down the street.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can definitely tell from like the early arts that we have from Vic how like I think I'm gonna assume Vic was a he him pronouns. Um you can kind of tell from how they were like how the idea was developing because it you can tell it originally just started kind of a shit post. I made Toriel really super creepy. Here's your goat mom now. And then became more of a serious idea where like they started actually taking it slowly more seriously.
I'm really liking Asgore's suave look and really poofy pants. That's what I'm imagining the white frills on the bottom to be like 1700s poofy pants.
I thought it was poofiness inside the cape.
Oh, that's true too. Like really big curtain looking cape. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Either way, we're liking it.
Yeah, I don't know if we got any more art from Vic as far as Asgore, if they ever cleaned up that design or not, but that's pretty much what I've got for. Let me see. What are my notes for Underfell? So Underfell was created. So there are two major interpretations of Underfell. One being that they are evil, which appears in a lot of comics and a lot of AUs. Or two, they're not evil, they're just more gruff and traumatized, which I think the community overall prefers the second one. Um,
Mm.
the first one still has like a lot of different comics early on, but like early on in the fandom, but they also have a lot of really problematic subjects and themes that I don't feel comfortable talking about. So, yeah, early on comics of Undertale got kind of weird, but I think the second
Gotcha.
one where they're not evil, they're just traumatized and they're just expressing it in a very unhealthy way. That tends to be what the community really agrees upon more.
Gotcha. So, like, I'm asking like you this versus what you know about the general AU. Do you think that the reason that they're traumatized is that they did one of the humans did a genocide run and then they reset it and they all remember?
I don't think so. I don't think that's because I think that would break the entire AU entirely if they all remember the resets. And a lot of times it's actually the complete opposite where I see very little content where Fell Sans is aware of resets.
Okay,
Because
that was just my theory of like what could have made them all traumatized in that way, unless it was the war, which is understandable. But if it
I
wasn't the
think
war,
it
well, could it be?
I think it's just the war. I think
Okay,
there's not really a solid reason why Underfell differs from the original. It's just straight up an aesthetic choice that it differs from the original. It's there's
okay,
I don't think there's any in-universe reason why it's different.
all right, cool.
And a lot of Underfell only like you could still do like a genocide run of Underfell technically, but it just becomes there's not really much difference to it than what you would get from like a regular genocide run in original Undertale. Like the events would just still play out the same way. It's not. I feel like a genocide run of Underfell. I'm sure people can make it interesting, but it's just not as interesting.
It would just be
Um,
the same, but with a lot more red.
right, exactly.
Okay, cool.
It's and that's why like more of the content you see of Underfell is pacifist run because it's way more interesting because you have these characters that really much more than the original tempt you into doing genocide, but Frisk doesn't. It's it the dynamic is much more interesting where even though these characters are more likely would be more likely to tempt you into killing them, the choice to not kill them.
All right, I like that. I like the balance of quote unquote good and evil.
Right, right. I think yeah, because Underfell really functions much more beautifully as a true pacifist run than as a genocide run. But I've still seen a lot of content of genocide runs of Underfell. I just find the pacifist version so much more interesting because I've seen a few interpretations of the papyrus state in Underfell. It's fucking adorable.
Now I gotta find that. That sounds awesome.
Because it still happens. You still people still interpret what's the papyrus state, how it functions in the Underfell version.
I like to think that his room does not look any different. Like you still got the little action figures in the car in the car bed. He probably
You
just
know
has a lot
what?
more
A
followers
lot of
online.
AUs don't give him the car bed, but I love the idea of him still having the car bed.
And like it just has like some fire decals on the side.
Yes,
I love
I
that.
like that. I love that idea, but so many times I've seen where he just has a regular bed in Underfell, and I don't know if that's just artists straight up forgetting what his room is like.
Or maybe he's just a lot more practical than OG Papyrus. I don't know. I have not read up on Underfell Papyrus, but if he is a bit more practical, maybe that's why, but I still love the idea that at some point he had, or still has, a car bed.
I have seen some interpretations where, yeah, he does tend to be more practical because trauma does that to you. You kind of have to, it forces you to grow up a lot faster than you might have to, especially since a lot of the interpretations I like, he's worried about protecting Sans, um, but not making it obvious that that's what he's doing.
Hmm.
So,
But maybe
yeah,
it can be a guilty pleasure, and by I mean guilty pleasure is like he shouldn't have a car bed because he's so practical, and that's what he wants everybody to see him as. But like when he's alone, he's like, I sometimes I just want to pretend that I'm driving because it's cool. And there's no reason for it. I just like it.
I like that idea too. I really do like that idea. Um, I because that's the thing is like he's still at his heart is still Papyrus. He's
Yes.
just he thinks he's more badass.
Which I absolutely love. I must meet this person. I know I can't in real life, but you know what I mean. I will read up
Right.
on him.
And of course I I realize we've been talking about Papyrus because I'm just a sim for Papyrus.
Yeah, Sans is cool
Um,
too, but like Papyrus. No, I'm just joking.
sorry, Sans. Oh, apparently Sans' gimmick in this is that instead of making hot dogs, he makes chimichangas, which just
Which
gives me Deadpool vibes.
he's Deadpool. He's Deadpool,
Yeah,
but a skeleton, and I appreciate that. Deadpool's great.
right. Which I find interesting because I'm like, are they pre-made chimichangas and he just fries them? Because chimichangas are actually kind of a bit more effort than hot dogs.
True. He's an artiste in this
He's
one.
an artist.
There's some pizzazz with his culinary crafts.
And then instead of ketchup, he likes to drink mustard.
Good for him. I
And
like
then for
that. Does Papyrus
papyrus,
still make pasta?
he does
I
not
must
make
ask that
spaghetti,
question.
but he makes lasagna instead.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's his gimmick. But yeah, there's a ton of like on undertale-au.fandom.com. There's a ton of like little fun character quirks that each of the characters had listed. I That would probably be its own video if I went completely over that. Our viewers can just look that up and read through that.
I'm loving the picture, the last picture of Underfell, where it's like a labeled diagram of Sans and Papyrus, and we've got Bad Boy Belt pointing to Papyrus, and I love that.
I think on the Wikipedia page it states that um he actually made the belt himself after defeating Undying in a fight, so he made himself like his own like pro wrestler belt after beating.
I love that. Good for him. You know, we continuously forget that Papyrus made his own costume and has worn it ever since, and I think that's a big thing. I
Yes,
can I buy all my cosplay stuff online, and I wish I didn't have to, but if I were to sew everything, I would look like a really horrifically made doll, and I don't want to look like that when when in cosplay for characters that are not horrifically made dolls.
Yes, I like to think that Papyrus is an excellent cosplayer.
Yeah. I mean, again, the Skeletor thing down pat.
Now I need to see Papyrus cosplaying as Skeletor.
You know what, as we go on to the next thing, because I know what the picture is, and I understand that more than the other AU so far.
Speaking of, so that's all the notes I have on Underfell. Do you want to tell us what our next AU is?
It's Underswap.
It's Underswap.
Yeah, we got Blueberry.
We got Blueberry. Now I think the name Blueberry actually came from the Ask Error blog because Error calls him Blueberry mockingly, but then that's how the entire community refers to
Yeah.
him.
Actually, before we go on, I looked it up, and the first thing that came up was a Reddit post, and the basic of it is that the original Skeletor voice actor says, "I'm the Great Papyrus," which is glorious.
Okay, it looks like it might just be a video, so someone probably just asked him to say it. He might not necessarily know who Papyrus is.
Either way, we've got a voice, and I will consider it canon.
Awesome. So yeah, so our next AU is going to be Underswap. Underswap was created by Popcorn Prince, and sometimes the first O is replaced with the 0 and the I in Prince is replaced with a 1, or sometimes it's just Popcorn Prince. So the first instance of Underswap was published October 21st, 2015, and that was this original image. Basically, Popcorn Prince was like, so what if like Sans had Papyrus's personality? And that's how we got this first image. And everyone's like, oh my god, that's great. We want to see you do that with every character now. And so that's how we ended up getting like the Alphys version, where Alphys is the royal guard instead. And then inevitably we got the big poster. Now I think the big poster with all the characters is also by Popcorn Prince. It says Popcorn Prince, but the style is different. So that's why I'm not 100% sure if that's actually Popcorn Prince's art or not. Or if someone was just crediting Popcorn Prince in the art. I think for now I'm just going to say it is Popcorn Prince's art. If it's not, just someone let me know. But I know that the original one with Sans and Alphys is Popcorn Prince's art.
Cool. I am in love with Grillby's design.
Yeah. Groby's design is beautiful. I also love Muffet because Muffet and Groby switch places.
Yes, I I love the swirly glasses and just that being his entire face. I love it.
Yeah. So Muffet and Groby switch places. Um, Temmie and Flowey switch places. So Temmie becomes like the corrupted character, and then Temmie Village is just Flowey Village with a whole bunch of derpy Flowies.
We love Derpy Flowey. I the eyebrows on him is oh, I love it.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. And I also didn't know that Burger Pants and the Nice Cream guy get swapped places, which is really interesting.
The Nice Cream guy does not look happy to be so depressed.
No, no, he doesn't. My poor rabbit man.
What is Toriel's weapon? Oh, that's a staff. Never mind. I know
Oh, is it a
enough
staff?
about fantasy. Yeah, it looks like an orb thing in like a you know like when you look at a ring, like a diamond ring or whatever, and there's like the
Yeah,
metal part that holds the yeah, it looks like that, but on a stick with an
yeah.
orb.
I've seen it many times where she just has a trident too. I just realized that it was a staff. I thought it was just a trident. Um, I feel dumb for not noticing
No, you're not
that
dumb. I think she's just
that
showing
it's
up more
different.
for like mage skills, like a D&D class kind of thing.
Right, that does make more sense to her, to be honest.
Either way, Alphys's design too is glorious. She looks way too happy, but also just enough happy of having a
Yeah,
gigantic axe in her hand.
it's important to enjoy what you do.
That's true. Who do you think? I want to believe that all of the store people that you see in the game have switched, other than Temmie. But like the bunny in Snowden and what's his I should Gerson.
Well, I think in Underswap there are interpretations for every single character and every single monster being swapped in some way, except for Jerry. It is literally
Jerry is
canon to
Jerry.
Underswap that Jerry does not get swapped with anyone.
Beautiful. I love that. You know what? Stand your ground. I appreciate it. If you got it, flaunt it.
Um, but yeah, there's some interesting swaps. You're right. There's our Underswap isn't the only AU where characters get moved around in different roles. So the community has kind of created something essentially like a role that like defines like each of the roles so that the characters can be moved around in those roles a lot more easily in AUs. And you can quickly get the idea of who they are without, naming two different characters at the same time. Um, so what's interesting is that in Underswap, literally everyone except Jerry has been swapped. And I didn't realize this until like I think I was looking at some Fell swap art and realized that Asriel and Monster Kid have been swapped.
Oh, I like that too. That's cool.
I don't know how that works story wise, but
That's okay.
somehow,
We don't need to know. We
yeah,
just need to accept. Which I feel like is a rule of thumb for all of these.
right, right. Don't think too hard. Now I know someone is developing an Underswap game, and maybe they will answer that question of how swapping Asriel Monster Kid would work. But they do manage to do that, which is interesting because that might mean the Monster Kid is possessing Temmie.
I don't know. I would love the idea though that they're asked about this in the game and it's like a comedic like dot 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 anyway and then they just go right into a different topic and you as a player
Maybe.
you're like, no, but a backstory. Nope.
Yeah, I love to like what's listed on the wiki is the Mad Dummy and the Ruins Dummy switch places between an active role and enraged role, which is like so it's the same.
No, but I like
Because
the idea that the mad dummy in the ruins has a very angered face. Like the face that you see after they go all like, I don't know how to describe it, but that noise. Like that face is still there, but they don't move and they don't talk. But in the
just passive
dump
aggressive.
area, yeah, in the dump area, when you see the dummy, like the original ruins dummy as mad dummy and whatever, like their expression doesn't change. It's just like
Monotone.
monotone, and I think that's a bit more creepy, and I love that. Like they're
That
angry at
could be.
you, and yet their facial expressions do not share that fact.
So another one that's really cool is Bratty and Caddy take the blockade role, and Royal Guard 1 and Royal Guard 2 take the trash vendor roles. Which is so weird because that means Bratty and Caddy get armor because they become part of the Royal Guard. But then what do the Royal Guard look like without armor?
I think they look like fish. I saw some scales. That's what I at least believed they
Oh,
were,
you
and
mean they're fish people? And I love corn dogs. After taking these notes, I had to go to the grocery store and get myself some corn dogs because I was
nice.
like,
I
"Oh man, I need
have
those
I
right
had a
now."
corn dog before? I don't think I have.
You've
I
never
know
had
the
a corn dog before?
I don't think so. I'm not a big
That
hot dog person.
Oh, okay. Okay. I forgive you then. Because I was like, what kind of American are you? You haven't had a corn dog before.
I've had a burger though, and that makes me American trademarked.
Trademark. Um, Yeah, but you know what a corn dog is. It's a hot dog
I
covered in
do,
corn
yes.
batter. Yeah.
Yes, it's like a fried hot dog and it's got some batter over it. Yeah, on a stick usually. I watched The Princess Diaries. I know.
And then can you guess what Blue's thing is instead of pasta?
It's ramen. I feel it's ramen.
It is not ramen.
Dang it. Is it cereal? Like really sugary, like Lucky Charms cereal?
It is not cereal, but someone made a comment in one of our previous videos that was talking about one of the rare interviews with Toby Fox after the game came out. And a lot of people assume that Papyrus's favorite food is spaghetti, and it is not. Can you guess what Papyrus's favorite food is?
Oh, I don't know.
It's
You've
kind of
kind
a
of blown my
cereal
mind.
related thing. It's kind of a cereal related thing.
Is it oatmeal?
It is oatmeal with dinosaur eggs.
I love that.
That is
You've kind of blown my
canonically
mind
that is
with the idea
canonically
of
his favorite food directly from Toby Fox.
you blew my mind. I didn't know that, and it's sad for me to think that he doesn't have pasta reigning as his favorite food.
No, he thinks everyone else's favorite food is pasta, and that's why he keeps making it.
You know what? That's such a clever and fair thing to say that I will instantly accept that.
Yeah, it's like a rare interview that if anyone has a link to that, the actual interview, I really believe that because I feel like I heard that in the early days of the fandom. Like when I wasn't even technically in the fandom, I think I heard that as like a comment that someone brought up that Papyrus's actual favorite food is dinosaur eggs and oatmeal. Um, but anyone actually has a link to that interview or the transcript of that interview with Toby Fox, please let us know. But you still need to guess what Blue's favorite food to make is. Not necessarily his favorite food, but his favorite food to make. And this would have been a
um,
food that Alfie's, because if we're going by Undertale logic, Blue is being taught how to cook by Alfie's in this instance. What Alfie's would be
that's
teaching him
right.
how to make.
Um, is it a cupcake? Perhaps he's
It is
gone
not a
into
cupcake.
baking versus in cooking.
It's not a cupcake. It's a
Do
lot
you cook it
easier
or
to
do
make
you
than
bake it?
you assemble it.
You sem uh oh, I
It did
don't
it
know.
did make an appearance in Underverse.
Right, and I totally forget.
Papyrus was carrying some and
You're
Cross
just gonna have
stole
to
it
tell
from
me. I have no idea. I my mind is boggled at the idea of assembling it. Other than
It's
like,
a taco.
oh, oh, that's right. Okay.
So Blue's thing is making tacos.
I love that. Perhaps I'll make a good dessert taco. That's my favorite kind of taco. Choco taco. Best.
Okay, so do you have any more questions about Underswap before we move on to the next AU?
Does Underswap Sands have a car bed?
I have no idea
I
if
really
Undertale
want it
fans
to
has
be
a car bed.
convertible buggy and have it be like, you know those like kid beds where there's like the canopy?
Yes.
I really want that to be a thing for his car, but it's like a buggy, like a Volkswagen Beetle. Uh,
Yeah.
but like there's a little like window on the top.
I don't know
Like a
why.
convert.
You know the common GIF where you see the Toby Fox dog inside a Fisher Price car. I don't know why I just see one of those converted into a
Oh
bed.
my gosh, I need that. I love that. But like gigantic, and that's a bed. I love it.
Yes, make it just a little bit bigger and have it converted into a bed, and that's Swap. That would be Swap Sands's bed.
Yes.
Oh, I have one for you. What do you think the instead of Fluffy Bunny, do you think it would be something else? The Fluffy Bunny story.
What's the opposite of fluffy?
It doesn't have to be necessarily opposite of Fluffy. Well, there's a lot of rabbits in Snowden. I don't know if they get replaced by anything in particular. Maybe so Nice Cream Guy is a rabbit, and I think Burger Pants is like a bear. Maybe it's like a bear story instead. Maybe it's
Okay, I was thinking like the werewolf guy with the ice
oh
guy.
like the ice wolf.
Yeah, like he's just the main like Adventures with Wolf Pup,
Oh, that's cool too.
which I would also adore.
Yes. But anyway, we've spent too much time theorizing about Underswap.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So the next AU, can you guess it if you haven't already seen it? What's in the
Let's
images?
see. This is either Outer
Can you
Tail or
Yes, it is
Story
Outer
Ship.
Tail.
Okay.
It is Outer Tail. Because Outer Tail appears in Underverse. So this whole AU takes place in space. And I mean, so we were trying to figure out how Frisk got to space in the first episode, and the thing is, Frisk was always in space. So literally everything in this AU takes place in space, even the humans. So it's all space. So in this version, the monsters are banished to a literal quadrant of space, not to underground, to any underground. They're just that's your place now. Don't come out of it.
So is it like
And so
another planet or like a Wall-E kind of spaceship?
it's not a spaceship. I don't think it's necessarily a planet. I think it tends to be portrayed as like an asteroid field almost. And like the different
Okay.
places are on like different segments. Yeah, it's called the Ebot Quadrant instead. And Frisk gets there because they're in a tiny little spaceship that crashes there. So that's how Frisk gets to Outertale. So yeah, this is another one that's like much more of an aesthetic shift. The story doesn't get affected that much. It's more just an aesthetic change. And I thought was interesting, something I didn't realize is Flowey, instead of being a flower, is a star called Twinkly Twinkle. Or Twinkly Twinkly.
We love Twinkly Twinkly. I also like Kara's whole nebula eyes
Oh
thing
yeah.
going on.
The thing that's cool too about them is they're when they die, they turn to stardust. And instead of just being a white dust, it's like purpley with like glitter in it. And I'm like, why do you have to make it more tempting to kill these poor creatures?
Well, it must be aesthetically pleasingly horrifying to
Right, because I was looking at some art from the original artist, 2 mil 1 or 2me127. They changed their name to Pemsky, Mimi Pemsky later. But they had some art on one of their blogs that had Kara, and Kara was just like looking all cute and everything, and I'm like, oh, that's adorable. And then I realized they were covered in a slime, and then I realized that's the stardust from killing a monster, and I'm like, dear lord.
Oh geez. I'm loving this last picture that you sent of their version of Undyne, Alphys, and Metaton. And I freaking love it that Undyne is described because it's like a diagram thingy again, like different things are pointed out. We've got coat and wave gradient and stars. So like describing her clothing. But then with Alphys it's just cute, and with Metaton it's just dang. And that's it. I love
That's all
that.
you need to know. That's all you need to know. Yeah, it is wonderful. It's also the one of the few AUs that has a complete soundtrack that was composed by Jeffrey Watkins on YouTube. And it's
Ooh.
literally like a fully assembled soundtrack you can go listen to, and it's just spacey and sparkly, and it's just a very nice chill soundtrack. Because even the Megalovania one is like, I used to have it on my playlist for a little while, the Outer Tail Megalovania, because it's just like beep 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 beep. Like it's like this should be actually horrifying, yet it's still adorable.
I gotta figure out what Bonetrousle sounds like. I really want to see how they made like I know they don't really use a slide whistle, but the slide whistle vibe, if you get it. Like, how did they make that spacey?
I don't know. Like I don't know music and instruments very well, so I'm not sure. But it is still a very chill listen through. Um So one of the fandom sites says the AU seems mostly abandoned without officially being declared such. And or I apologize, that's just my notes. The fandom site doesn't say that. But it seems like the AU has been mostly abandoned and has just been community absorbed. But again, it's Outertale. The story doesn't really change. It's just, for the most part, an aesthetic change.
Pretty cool.
But with,
I love her leggings. I'm sorry. I'm looking at Unend again,
oh
and I'm
yeah,
looking at her leggings, and I love them.
I swear I feel like I've seen leggings like that before. They are very cute. I think Kara has similar leggings too.
Yeah, they've got a very similar vibe when it comes to pant and shoe choices, and then the sweater is different. But I love the suspenders. I love that they look like the save points.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool too. They look like the save stars.
Yeah.
That's all I have for Outertale. Now, I know Killer Sands appears in Season 1, but we're not going to go over Killer Sands' AU, unfortunately. He's the bad guy, you get it. But mainly because Killer Sands' AU is very complicated and a lot more than I assumed it was. Because the community, when you talk about Killer, um, and you're talking about him in a really quick and dirty way, fanon wise, he's more or less just a Sans that's being possessed by an evil Kara who just likes to kill things. But his actual canon story is way more complicated than that. As far as Underverse, from what we've seen so far of Killer Sans, you don't really need to understand his story to get what his deal is. Because I researched a bit of Killer, and then I was like, I really want to save this for a Bad Sanses episode where we talk about the Sanses that work for Nightmare.
Now remind me again, what does Nightmare look like? That's not the tentacle dude. That was Nightmare, right?
Yeah, Nightmare's the
Okay.
tentacle dude.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dream's brother.
Okay. I was like, if you could see right now, I've got like the algebra lady gif thing going on. I'm like, okay, pieces together.
So yeah, so we won't go into Killer Sands. You don't really need to. You don't really need to know Killer Sands to get. He's a henchman for Nightmare and Underverse, and that's all you really need to know.
Yes,
Now,
okay.
before we close this episode, though, I want to ask the community: can someone please tell me who the cat in the rainbow scarf is? I don't know who this character is. The cat in
Oh.
the rainbow scarf.
Oh,
So
yes.
there's a scene where Fell Sands and Classic Sands are hanging out in his house after Cross stole the house. And there's two cats in the house. The white cat is Doomfanger, which the community should recognize right away. I'm pretty sure you know who Doomfanger is, right?
I do not. Maybe you've told me and I just am not remembering it. I'm assuming that
Okay.
that's another name for Underfell Sands because of the whole like tooth thing.
No, 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 no. Doomfanger is a cat. So that's where we get Doomfanger from. It's this really popular animation from this user on YouTube. It's LUP Loop. It has over 1 million views. It was posted on May 25th, 2016, and people love this animation so much that they just kind of canon or headcanon or fandom that they legitimately have this cat named Doomfanger. Because of the nature of the animation or like the animatic, a lot of times the cat is interpreted to be white with a red color. But I've seen people interpret the cat as having different colors or even being tabby patterned because the animation is so simplistic that you could interpret it however you wanted. But a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people do interpret it as a white cat. But Doomfinger, I get this cat with the rainbow scarf. I don't know what this cat is,
Is that
and
not like Fresh's cat? The color
I
scheme
don't
makes me think Fresh.
maybe, but Fresh doesn't have a cat. Like, the only evidence I could find as to what this character was one person saying, "Is that Nico Shift Azriel?" And I was like, "What the hell is Nico Shift?" And I could not find any evidence of this AU existing. And I
Oh,
get
if
what the
everybody's a pet?
well, I get what the I can get why the person thinks that, because in Story Shift, Azriel has a rainbow colored scarf. So I can see someone being like, oh, maybe that's a cat version of Azriel. That makes no sense in story-wise. Why is it in Fell's house? And even if that were true, I couldn't find literally any other evidence. I couldn't find any evidence of Nico Shift as an AU. I mean, it might exist, but, well, I think I Googled it, and anything that came up, the designs were more like anthropomorphic cats when it came to like Nico AUs, but not like literal cats. So I have no idea what this character is. If anyone actually knows, please tell me. I want to know what this character is. Like, does it come from like another fan animation or something popular in the community that I just don't know about? I don't know. Someone please tell me. All right. So as far as the AUs that occur in Underverse Season 1, that's all I have. Do you have any questions about what we talked about?
I don't have any questions. My only comment is that I love them all.
Yes. Yes, I do love them all. I do.
And now I know what the heck is happening whenever I see them. Before
Right,
I'm just
right,
like, they
exactly.
look different. Cool.
All right. Well, if that is all for today, all I have left to say is support your local metaphysical space skeletons. Toodles.
Bye bye.